Dakota Robertson is a writer and entrepreneur, and he's built a 100,000 person audience on not just Twitter, but also Instagram over the past 2 years. He's also built a six-figure ghostwriting business, and in this conversation, we spoke about how growing up without a father has shaped him, how he became a better writer, and what he'd recommend to other entrepreneurs just getting started online. This episode is brought to you by My First Million. My First Million is a podcast that talks about the latest in entrepreneurship, technology, business. I listen to it religiously and have before even they were sponsoring this podcast. And if you want to get started listening to that show, I recommend either the most recent episode that they've put out, because it's probably going to be something you're going to enjoy if you're interested in business and technology, or I recommend the episode with Sahil Bloom, which is an absolute banger. You're going to enjoy that one. So check out either the most recent or the Sahil Bloom episode. But now let's get to the podcast with Dakota Robertson. And thank you for listening. Dakota, welcome to the podcast. So honored and thrilled you're here. Really grateful. I followed your journey for the past year, maybe 2 years. You were one of the first people to be a paid subscriber for my newsletter. So thank you very much, good sir. And I'm really excited to dive into your story here today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. I remember when I first started on Twitter, seeing you as the Twitter OG, and it's cool. Dude, it's been amazing to see your journey as well. Just how much you become a household name in the podcasting space. It's just like mind blowing. I remember listening to your first episode. I believe it was with Tej Dosa, I believe, and you just touched on just how if you were persistent, you were going to get success in the long run. And I mean, hundreds of episodes later, I mean, look at you now. It's just absolutely nuts. So much love and much respect for your journey, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you following along since the jump. It's been a cool ride. But I'm curious, I've listened to so many podcasts of you over the past week, and I've heard you talk about the power of consistency, and I've heard you talk about exactly what you just mentioned there. And I'm curious for you, though, in the past year, what's the biggest rite of passage you've been through that stands and you look at it and you say, wow, like I went through this, and it changed me in some way. I'm curious about your biggest rite of passage.
Yeah, it was actually starting an online business and going all in on it. I mean, before I did a little bit of side hustles here and there, but actually picking one avenue, which was ghostwriting, and dedicating my focus to it. And I mean, for context, I started my agency last November, and the amount of uncomfortable things I had to do and challenges I had to overcome to actually persevere was the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I did for my self-development. So like I was terrified on sales calls, just like very nervous, getting my head and all that. I had to keep doing them and to overcome that. Communicating with clients, learning that aspect, writing and learning to deliver great results for people. Just learning to focus on that one thing. And yeah, I'm grateful. I mean, it's been a pain in the ass sometimes, and a lot of times where it's like, oh my God, like this again. But at the end of the day, it was just like putting in more of those reps, and I got stronger because of it. And now I have all this experience that I can help others with, which is really cool.
Well, it's fascinating because I remember listening to a podcast you were on in, I think, November of 2021 or December of 2021, a year ago. And you were like, yeah, I'm really excited to go down the route of fitness and helping people transform with fitness. And now you're known on Twitter as the ghostwriting guy, and your focus is 100% on writing. So what happened there? How did you make the transition from, all right, I'm going to do fitness, and then I'm going to do writing? What happened?
Yeah, so I originally was going to do ghostwriting, and then I talked to one of my friends on Twitter, and he's like, Dakota, like, I mean, you don't know, like, this isn't going to work. Like, you don't have experience with it. I mean, look at, you're already jacked. You already got the skill and knowledge in this one area. Like, you should just go on that. that's what's like, oh, yeah, I guess, like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense because I didn't do ghostwriting before. It was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, but like, I wanted to do it, but I was like, yeah, maybe I should just stick to what I know. And that's where I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. But lo and behold, like a week after when I was like, oh, I'm going to pursue fitness, like I landed some clients and all that in the fitness. But then I landed a ghostwriting client, like an inbound ghostwriting client. So I had a ghostwriting client, and then I had the fitness people, which was a nightmare, like just having your focus scattered in the beginning there. So yeah, it was kind of, I think it was kind of like a fear of failure or a fear of rejection that I steered away from going all in on the ghostwriting at the very start. And that's why I went to the fitness, because of that one friend. Yeah, so I dropped the fitness clients after a little bit because it was just like, okay, I can't keep scattering my focus here. I need to go all in on the ghostwriting. And I'm glad I did, because I would have been going crazy if I had to keep help. Like I told the people $200 and I'll get you to your fitness goals. And it was just like, oh, the daily check-ins and all that stuff, and like, okay, now I gotta make plans. It's just like, it's just not for me. So yeah, I dropped that real quick. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and I think it points to you're solving a bigger problem, and you're solving a bigger need for people that's more valuable in the marketplace as well. And I'm curious, I also went down the route of, oh, maybe I'll be a fitness coach, maybe I'll help people with that, and then it never stuck for me. And I'm curious, like, from your perspective, why do you think it never stuck for you?
I think it's because I have a different mentality when it comes to fitness than other people. For me, I don't know. I think I developed the habit early on, so it was much easier for me. But when you're trying to do it for other people, they might not have the same discipline, or it might not be as easy for them to do what you say, or to be held accountable. So I think that was a difficult avenue for me to kind of like, oh, just do this. Like, come on. I know it was a skill I would need to develop, but I wasn't willing to commit myself fully to develop that skill and go all in. And I also like just doing new things. So, I mean, I look like a Chad, obviously, but I like exploring my curiosity. I like exploring writing and ghostwriting, all this stuff. Like, I want to be kind of like a Renaissance man with like experience in all these different areas. It's like, I mean, I can always go into fitness if I want, but I think the skill of writing is such a high ROI ability to have, and a good thing to have in your back pocket, and just developing that experience with business and writing. And I think it's a great asset to have.
What makes for a great writer?
I think the ability to communicate and invoke emotion or influence people in a certain way, take a certain action. So maybe emotions might be if you're writing fiction, or I mean even nonfiction. But yeah, like if you're good at communicating ideas and influencing people, I think that makes for a great writer. And that comes in all different forms. Like maybe the way I write can influence people in certain ways, but there might be a style of writing someone else does that can produce the same effect. So I think finding your style and finding ways to communicate with your ideal audience, I think that makes for a great writer.
Who were some of the most impactful people on your journey that you were like, all right, that person communicates really well as a either writer or communicator?
Yeah, so early on, I would say Twitter with Dan Co. Man, I remember seeing one of his tweets one time, and it was like, oh, this is like how he structured it. It's like, this is amazing, and just how he presents his brand as a whole, I really admire, and the care he puts into it, and the attention to detail. And then, I mean, I would say some books that really influenced me was Writing Tools by Roy Peter Clark. I haven't seen any of his other work, Roy Peter Clark, but that book was very impactful on the way I write and the structuring and the simplicity of it. Cashvertising, Drew Whitman, amazing book. And yeah, I'd say those are the two most impactful books, I guess, authors, people. And then, yeah, I didn't have any like close mentors that were like, oh, do this and do that. I just kind of looked at people I looked up to and modeled or emulated some of their styles.
You've had such a crazy journey over the past 2 years, but I kind of want to go back to the genesis of it all with growing up without a father. And you mentioned, your parents were crackheads. Like, what's that experience like? I think that's something most people won't ever experience. And then it's like, you seem so well adjusted. You seem like you don't hold a lot of anger in your heart. You seem like you're kind of at peace. And I'm curious how someone goes from like having to take care of their father as a friend to then just being able to deal with that situation and it's seemingly at peace. How does that happen?
Yeah, that's something I've been just trying to. For context, I've been going to therapy for the past 3 weeks, and just like I'm starting to realize that, like it has impacted me in ways I just haven't realized before, and it's just interesting. But I mean, I think the reason I've dealt with things so well, in regards to that situation was, I mean, I wasn't abused. I wasn't like it wasn't like I wasn't. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people that have way shittier situations. I just grew up without a father, and sure that impacted me in certain ways. But yeah, the lens I looked at it through is like, okay, like I wasn't abused. Like I didn't really like have any like crazy traumatic shit. And then also I kind of liked it because I got to form my own identity. Like a lot of these people, they'll take on the traits of their father. And if it's a bad role model, I mean, you're kind of screwed. In the sense where I grew up without a father, is like, okay, I kind of get to set my own path in a way. I mean, for context, my mom was very hardworking, like amazing woman. She went to drugs later on in life when I was 16. So I had a very loving mother, and she instilled a lot of great values in me. I remember her telling me early on, growing up, it's like, Dakota, don't work for somebody else, like start your own business. She always like drilled that in my head, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but just looking back, like how much she's influenced me and my character and all that, I'm very appreciative of that.
Why did she say that?
I think it's because she was a waitress, and she worked 2 jobs, and she was working all the time. And later on, she started her own like food cart as her own business, and she realized the leverage you have when you own your own time, and how you can scale. You're not limited by someone else's some other employer, because you're never going to make more than them. But if you own your own assets, if you own your own business, you set the limit of your potential. So I think she realized that lesson, and she wanted to instill that in me, and I'm so grateful she did.
And then, okay, so like you mentioned before, you're going to therapy for the past 3 weeks. What has that taught you, and what what was the reason for going in the first place?
Yeah, so I think the nice analogy I think Jocko Willink said was like, it's like going to a mind mechanic, It's like, you don't have to have traumatic shit happen to you, or like some kind of instance where, oh, I gotta go to therapy now. It's like, it's probably good to like just talk to somebody, You don't have to be broken or whatever the stigma is with it. Just be, I don't know, just talk about what's on your mind. Like, it can't hurt, right? And I stayed away for a while because like I was like, oh, I don't want to pay $170 an hour to some therapist. Like, I need that money and all that. But now I'm in like a better financial situation where it's like, I look at it as an investment, because if my mindset's off or something's eating at me, then it's going to throw off my performance in other areas. But I also realize, like, I don't know everything about myself. I mean, just having that outside perspective by someone just talking, challenging my ideas or my preconceived notions, it's very powerful. So, I mean, already like talking to the dude and he's pointing things out, I'm like, damn, you know what? You're probably right on that. I'm glad you challenged me.
Like what?
So just how I will not talk about myself, or I'll be more, I feel uncomfortable talking about myself sometimes, or I'll not share myself. and he was just pointing out like how certain aspects of childhood can influence that, and or just like being closed off at certain moments, or feeling anger in certain moments where I feel like I'm not valid to feel anger. And he was like, no, you're totally valid and all that. And it's just nice because it's just bouncing ideas off someone, and getting challenged or getting validated for certain things. It's good to have, I think.
And how do you do that? Is it through BetterHelp? Is it through like just in person? Like how do you go about and set that up?
Yeah, so I wanted to do in person, but I was in Dubai for the past 30 days, so I had to find someone online. But I found someone in my local city. I looked through hundreds of therapists, and I just didn't vibe with a lot of them, or just like with their profiles and all that. But this guy, he looked solid, so I just hit him up, hopped on some Zoom calls, and I like his style. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And the reason why I'm asking these questions is because, a lot of people might be like, I'd like to go to a therapist too, and then not know the first steps that they should take. But it's easy, simple as going through a Google search and then finding some people that resonate with you. Well, what in particular were you looking for when you were looking out for a therapist?
I wanted someone that was no bullshit and that could call me out. Like I for context, I went to therapy in the past, but that was because I had some like PTSD from a car accident. It was kind of screwing with me. And I didn't like her approach because it was very like fluffy and like feel good, rah rah, all that stuff. Maybe that's good for some people, just not my style. I want someone that will call me on my shit and challenge me and be like, well, have you thought about it from this perspective? And I got that vibe from this guy, which I liked, and yeah, it's been great so far. But yeah, and like in terms of finding therapists, like I think Psychology Today, I think it has a local directory in your city, I believe. But yeah, there's BetterHelp, there's all these other solutions, and yeah.
And so, talk to me about your relationship with your mom when you were going through, 16 years old, she relapses, and how does that impact you, and how do you like navigate through that? It seems like you've been through some pretty difficult times in a pretty short life.
Yeah, man, like for context, my mom, like we were very close because I grew up without a father. She struggled to get affection from her boyfriends and stuff. So she got that affection from me, kind of, and like it's like not probably the healthiest thing to like rely on your kids for affection. So I was very much a mama's boy. I had a lot of feminine traits growing up. I was very shy and all that, but I was very close to my mom. I love her bits. And yeah, at the age of 13, her and her boyfriend split up, and they had 2 kids together, my 2 little sisters. And that was really rough on her because she didn't really have many people, and she was working all the time, running her food stands outside nightclubs at night. She raked it in. She knew the power of finding a good market, a hungry crowd. But yeah, that was hard on her. And I was living with her, and she eventually like started drinking a lot, and she would come home late at night, just drunk as hell, and I'd have to take care of her. I would.
At what age?
This was at age 13. And she didn't cook meals. Like I was always like, I remember I'd eat bread and butter. Like I would fend for myself and all that, or she would like give me money to buy pizza or something. It was just very unhealthy. But yeah, like, so it was alcohol, and then she already smoked a lot of weed, like every day. She was big into the weed, whatever. But yeah, it was starting to become more frequent. Like she was definitely hurting from that breakup and just being away from her kids. And I was just trying to be that support for her, but it was becoming so much where she was just drinking all the time, coming home drunk, and I was just like, I have enough. Like I'm just like, I can't do this. I'm 13 years old. I'm busing to school. I'm trying to like hold it together here.
Did you feel shame, like within your peers, within your friends, to teachers at school, or was it just like this is the situation?
I don't think I felt shame. No, I didn't feel shame. It was more frustration. It's like, God damn, like I wish she could get her shit together, like, because I loved her, and it was rough seeing that. And it got to a point where I was like, I can't do this. So I bust. I remember I had enough one day. I bust to my grandparents. My brother lived there, and I was like, hey, this is a situation. Like, can I move in here? And they're like, yes, absolutely. So I'm forever grateful for my grandparents. They took me in, and I started living there. And fortunately, my mom really kept on the same path because she was surrounded by a bunch of losers, and they would always take from her. She was a very giving person, and she always wanted to help, but she would like give homeless people jobs and stuff like that. But she surrounded herself around like some very negative people, and they eventually got her into the coke. And she did that, and she would call me. She would call me at night sometimes when I was like 16, and she was like, "Hey, like I'm screwed up. Like, can you give me a ride?" So there's many instances where I was like driving at night to these random places and like picking her up. She was all messed up. Coke went to crack, so she was smoking crack and just getting way too messed up. And yeah, from like ages like 16 to I think 18 or 19, that was rough. Like for context, like it's like not even the same person. Like after a while, it is actually mind blowing how much drugs can destroy someone's life, and just seeing like it wasn't even my mom at that point, man. Like it was like that sweet, beautiful woman that just had all these values and was just so caring and nurturing. To see what she turned into by the like those 2-3 years, it was mind blowing. Just like how far someone can go down the path when they're lost, because she didn't have a purpose, man. She was just lost. She was working, but she didn't see her daughters that much. She didn't have a boyfriend or a husband. She had like very very few people that cared for her in her life. And just seeing like just the route she went down was brutal. And I tried a lot. Like I drove her down to rehab in a separate city. I would try to talk to her, but like she's just so out of her senses from the addiction. It was scary, man. It was sad.
How are your parents doing today? And how old are you? Just so people have context.
Yeah, so I'm 24, 25 next month. And yeah, so for context, my father, he's been like relapsing on and off his whole life, my whole life. I see him more as a friend than a father. So he keeps relapsing. He keeps like getting off it, getting on it. Oh, I'll never touch drugs again. He gets back on drugs. Recently, 3 months ago, he came to me. He's like, hey, like I'm in a shit ton of debt. Like, can you buy this car off me? Bought a car off him. But I lost my shit. Like, I don't know why. I just, like, I had enough. And for the first time in my life, I just, like, lost my shit on him and just yelled at him. And what was interesting, what kind of, like, moved me towards therapy a bit more, was when I was yelling at him, I said something that I just didn't know I was harboring. I was like, do you know how fucking hard it was to grow up without a father? And like the struggle of that and all that. Like I was like, holy shit, where did that come from? Put him into tears pretty much. And I don't know. I was like, well, like maybe losing my shit on him will like help him get his shit together, but I don't know. I haven't talked to him since. So that's where I'm at with my father. But he's a great guy. Like just smokes a little crack. And then my mom, when I was 19, she actually overdosed on fentanyl. And she was homeless, for a while, and, she was surrounding herself around some really, really bad people. And, I guess she overdosed, and the people she was with just left her there, which is just crazy to me. Was really fucked up. Like my biggest regret, is I went to a music festival, and I went with a bunch of friends, and after the music festival, we were walking downtown, and I remember I was walking on the sidewalk, and as I was walking 2 feet to my left, I look. I was like, holy shit, that's my mom. And she's like on the street, and she was literally just staring out to the night sky, just like, she looked lost. Like, she looked like she was just like in a gaze. And I was walking with my friend group, and I was like, holy shit, like in my head, like that's my fucking mom, man. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, I don't want to make a scene here. And so we just walked. No one knew. We just kept walking. I walked right past my mom. And yeah, like a week later, found out she was dead. Overdose. God. Yeah, dude, that's like one of my biggest regrets in life, was just not saying hi or not hugging her or not anything. Like, that was the last time I saw my mom. And that was like biggest regret in life, was like I held a lot of resentment towards myself for that. So that was some heavy shit for me. It was so dramatic too, like, you know, so that's some shit out of some movies, you know. It's just funny how life works like that. But yeah,
holy smokes, oh my god.
Yeah, so tell your parents you love them. that's the moral of the story, you know. You never know the last time you're gonna see them. So I encourage everybody to, you know, like, talk to your parents, tell them you love them, even if you're pissed off or whatever, man.
Now, how do you find out that news, and then what happens? Like, how do you process that? What do you do? Where does your mind go?
Man, like, I remember I walked in and just seeing the cops, like, in the house, because my grandpa called me and I was at the gym, and he's like, hey, you gotta come here now, like, there's some stuff going on. I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, it just definitely didn't sound right. And then I walked in and I saw the cops, and like my family crying right away. It's like, they didn't have to tell me. Like, I started crying, man. Like, it was rough. And I remember my brother came up and just hugged me, and I was just like, I was dead, man. I was dead on the inside. And like the following days after, like, I just felt numb. Like, I think I like cut off a lot of my emotions, just kind of protect myself. And yeah, it was rough on me, because I was very close with her, and I was the closest to her, and I felt a lot of responsibility, just knowing like I was the most influential to her, and it just felt like I failed her in a lot of sense. I know that's not the case. I know that, like, I'm not the person. I can't live her life, right? But yeah, it definitely impacted me in a lot of ways, and I was very sad.
And then, like, how does that stay with you almost 6 years later, right? Like, how are you like living with that situation? What advice also would you have for somebody who finds themselves in a similar situation of losing somebody they love to drugs, or just losing someone they love in general? Like, take us through that process of, I guess, healing over the next 6 years, if you feel like you have healed from that situation in some way.
Yeah, so I think talking about it is great. There's many years I just didn't really talk about it, but just realizing, like, you know, you gotta process this shit. I also journaled a lot. That helped, you know, just kind of, if you don't have the money to talk to somebody, or you're not ready yet, I would highly suggest journaling. Has gotten through me some rough times, just helped me process stuff. But yeah, I would recommend talking to a friend or a therapist or something like that. And I mean, what helps me too is knowing that I'm living a life she would be happy for me. So, I mean, she told me growing up, like, don't work for somebody else, work for yourself. And now I'm doing it, and it just makes me happy knowing, like, she would be proud, and that I'm living in accordance of, like, my values, because I value freedom, and she would be very happy if she saw me today. So that's cool. But yeah, like, if anyone, like, ever goes through this stuff, it's definitely not rough. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but I think just reaching out to other people and just be like, hey, this is like, it's okay to validate your feelings, and if you're going through some rough shit, man, like you're not a burden on other people. It's okay to tell people like, hey man, like I just need to talk right now. Now I think that's a hard thing for men to do, is to reach out to other men or even women and be like, hey, like man, I'm not okay, to be honest. Can we just like talk? And you'll find like everyone, if you have decent friends, like everyone is absolutely willing to talk to you and just be there for you, which is solid. But yeah, that's my advice.
How come you seem so well adjusted? Like, I don't. It's like crazy to me what you've dealt with, like, and the fact that you're willing to talk about it and you're open with it, and you seem, like I said, at peace in some way. Like, it just is surprising to me and incredibly inspiring as well. So, like, what makes you that way?
I think I might think logically sometimes. So it's like, okay, this bad thing happened. All right, so I can wallow in it and just be a victim of it and play the poor me card all the time, or I can just accept what happened, and yes, it's bad, and yes, it hurts sometimes, but I mean, realizing, okay, these are the facts and I can't change it. I think that's kind of like where my mind goes, and like I'm not gonna pretend I'm a robot. Like it definitely like impacts me sometimes, and I still get emotional sometimes. But
take me through those moments. How do you deal with those moments?
I try to think of the good times, you know, like just the good memories of my mom, and you know, there's definitely that rough patch for those past few years, but I mean, just appreciating the lessons she taught me and the values she gave me. Just how much she impacted my life and the impact she had on everybody else. It's like, wow, she lived her life and she really impacted many people. And it's like, you know what? Like the last few years, yeah, it was rough on her, but she's not suffering anymore. That was a big thing for me. When I found out she died, like I also felt a sense of relief. Like, okay, she's not suffering. So the shit, it hurt a lot. It hurt way more seeing her suffering when she was alive than just when she was dead. But yeah, I think I just process things logically a little bit more than others, and just like, okay, you know, just accepting it. And the book Awareness, that's a great book for like developing emotional intelligence and self-awareness. I think just a lot of the tools I have for processing things comes from books.
Awareness by Anthony DeMello.
Yes, sir.
Were there any other impactful books or resources that you turned to in those difficult times to help you come to new understandings or appreciation for life?
I'm trying to think. Oh, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. That one was impactful for death and understanding life and all of that. I like that one, even though a lot of it went over my head because the guy's so high level. That still impacted me. Aside from other books, no, I can't think of any, because I never sought out any to help with coping with the death and all that. It was just like, oh, I have these beliefs and these pre-notions from these books I've read that helped me in my tool book or my tool belt.
And then take me through your journey of working. You go to college, you drop out of college, you're probably working in college and then working out of college. And then like, how do you navigate through that period? Let's say 19 to 22.
Yeah. So 19, I was working as an electrician up in the oil and gas industry. Didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to make money, learn to trade. So made a bunch of money, invested pretty much all of that into crypto. This was like 2018, 2019. People thought I was a complete idiot because I just kept investing as it kept going down. I'm like, no, guys, I'm not crazy, I swear. And just kept investing. And yeah, so I did that for a while. And then I was like, screw it, I don't know what I want to do. I was bouncing from job to job. I was a medic, security guard. And the reason I chose those jobs was because I can educate myself while getting paid. So that was a trick I learned. Just, I don't know, I just thought of it. It was like, okay, if I want to get into the entrepreneurial scene, well, let's pick jobs where I can get paid to sit on my ass, and then I could read books and educate myself and all that. So that's what I did with like being a medic and a security guard, which is funny. I was even a Domino's driver, and I listened to podcasts while I was doing it. But yeah, I think when I was 21, I was like, well, I still don't know what I want to do. I'm just going to go to college and become a high school teacher. And just, that was my plan B, was like become a high school teacher. I'm like, I got to figure this out before I grad from college. So 2021, September, second year of college. And I'm on Twitter, keeping up with the crypto news and all that. And I come across this course about Twitter, like growing on Twitter. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It was $40, bought it. And I remember I wrote in my journals, like, bought this course for $40. Don't know where it's going to lead, but we'll find out.
In September 2021.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
And yeah, so I got involved in like the money Twitter scene, and I was learning lots from these dudes like Dan Co, Dan Go, yourself, the whole OG crew. And I was learning more on Twitter than I was in college. And for context, like one thing that stands out to me was I was in a class where I was forced to get it to get my degree. But the professor was like, all right, class, I want you guys to go around and I want you to mime a weather system that you're feeling today. And that's when I knew, like, oh, I'm dropping out. Like, this is some crazy. This was like the start of September in September 2021, and that's when I was like, oh my god, I got to get out of here. This is crazy. And yeah, so I made the decision, like, okay, there's this Twitter thing. I'm learning a lot of cool shit on here, and there's people that have paved the way. I don't know how, but I'm gonna figure it out. So I made the decision. Okay, at the end of the semester, I'll complete it, and then I'm gonna drop out, go all in on the Twitter stuff. And I mean, at the time while I was in school, I was being a delivery driver for Domino's and all that just to make money. I mean, I made a lot of money from crypto, or I had a lot liquid from crypto. And I mean, when
I actually want to stop you for 1 second to talk about that journey. While everyone was kind of putting crypto down in the markets, you were saying, no, like, I'm going to invest in this time. And I kind of almost view it similar today, where every piece of news that you hear is like, crypto's going to zero, crypto FTX, this, that. Like, we're in this time right now, in this moment, where everyone is not excited about crypto. And that's usually the time to put things into it, is like when the hype is against it. So is that also how you view it? And take me through the decision in that moment when you were going to start putting money into crypto when it was not as exciting to do.
Yeah, so I'm no genius investor, but I can recognize when everyone is shitting their pants, that's the time to put money in. So right now, sure, it might go down more, but I mean, you're never going to time the bottom perfectly. So the way I was seeing it, okay, yeah, everyone's panicking, just put more money in. It keeps tanking. Okay, whatever, it sucks, put more money in, because if you have this long enough time horizon, and this is applicable to everything, like working out, business, all of that. If you have a long enough time horizon and you're looking for the long term, well, these short-term dips mean nothing. If you just keep steadily going, you're like, okay, I can see where this is going in 5-10 years. Well, boom. If I just keep consistently putting in money, keep consistently putting in reps at the gym, keep consistently investing my skills, like, it's impossible to lose. Like, kind of like your premise with the podcast. I mean, look at you now, right? So that was my ideation. And then when I saw everyone doing the diamond hands and the laser eyes, I was like, oh, we're kind of in the opposite direction here. I'm going to start selling some stuff.
Wow.
And I mean, because like that's all markets are, is just human emotion and psychology. So if you just look at it, like, okay, there's crazy shit going on here, like, I'm going to start selling.
How do you figure out how much to sell or when to sell exactly? Just when you saw people getting really excited?
Yeah, it's like I'm no expert, so don't take this as financial advice, but like I'll sell like 10% or 20% on like when it goes high up, and just to kind of secure a bag. But you never want to sell 100%. Like I've done that before. Like when Ethereum was I bought it at like a $90 and then went to 400. I sold all of it, and then it went to like $4,000. So you never want to sell all of it because it hurts more to see your coin go up like a crazy amount. But like just selling like steadily along the way, but never sell your full stack. But yeah, I'll probably sell like 10-20% of stacks after like a huge rise.
Cool. Good to know. Okay, so I cut you off there while you were in the middle of the journey. You sold a bunch of crypto. You made money in December 2021, and then what'd you do?
Yeah, so I was like, screw it. I quit my job at Domino's. I dropped out of college, and I mean, I only grew my Twitter account to 750 followers at that point. I was like, oh god, this is slow. But like, I'm gonna make a new one. I'm gonna try a new approach, and I'm gonna see if that works. I didn't know if it was gonna work, but I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, I just had this mindset, like, screw it, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, I'm gonna put my all in this. And yeah, so February 17th, I created the account I got now. So I just
February 17th, 2022. And
yeah, or no, sorry, my timelines are messed up. So when I said 2021, that was 2022. 2021 of February 17th was when I created my account. I apologize.
Okay, no, I just want to get it right for the people listening.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, so February 17th, 2021 was when I created this account. And then I centered it around writing because I saw that there's a writing account that was growing fast. And I was like, oh, he's picked a skill and he went hard niching down and he's giving valuable tips. I'm going to do the same. So I did that. It worked out really well. Grew to 1,000 followers in like 40 days. And I saw, okay, there's something here. And I just kept with it and stayed consistent. And I grew more and more and made friends with people in the Twitter space. And it worked out well.
Well, it's crazy because in 2 years, you've gone from 0 to 185,000 followers. Is that right? In the past 2 years? That's insane.
100, I think I'm at 160 right now on Twitter. And
maybe
then
by
like
the time this comes out, you'll be at 195.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm at 194 on Instagram. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You did that in a year on Instagram.
Dude, Instagram was 2 months. That was absolutely mind-blowing to me. That was crazy.
And so people might be saying, why? How is this possible? What are you doing in 2 years to go from 0 to over 100,000? I think most people would say that's a good result. And most people would say, I'll take that if they could go from 0 to 100,000 on any platform ever. Yeah. So what'd you do?
Yeah. So the way I put it, there's two areas you got to nail. So there's the content. So you have to have quality content. You have to know how to write, you know, what ideas to push out. And then you have to have the distribution. So distribution can be retweets, so you can buy retweets. You can have engagement groups with people. You can comment a crap ton and get eyes on your content. So when you have those two nailed, that's when it comes together really well and you just explode. So from like 4,000 followers onward, I was in a coaching program and it came with retweets. I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like I can use some retweets from these big accounts and like grow my stuff. So like 4,000 followers onward, I used retweets to like boost my content, and that definitely helped. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, this is all like just me commenting and my content's so good. All that's like, no, I got retweets, like whatever. Yeah, so I think studying writing was a big one. Like I since my account was a writing account, played in my favor because I was forced to study writing, and I got decent at simplifying things, presenting ideas, using copywriting to engage people on my content. And yeah, it helped quite a bit.
It's cool even how you're using the writing in the videos you're posting on Instagram now and that have blown up. It's like I see you do the hook and I'm like, oh, that's just the first sentence of a Twitter thread.
Exactly, dude. My reels are all for my tweets because it just makes sense. Take the validated tweets that got a lot of engagement and then use them on reels. And lo and behold, I got a reel that got like 260K likes and another like 110. It's just like, stuff works, man.
Take me through the other side of the dopamine, right? So you go really high, you gain followers very quickly, and then what happens, right? Like I think you haven't grown as fast over the past let's say 3 months. So like, how does that impact your psyche and being on the other side, or does it not? You don't care about it, but the dopamine on the other side of it?
Yeah, so for context, I just write 4 tweets a day, and I'm just growing steadily. I'm fine with, like, I average like 300 followers a day, just like 4 tweets a day. I'm fine with that. But I understand if I was to write threads again and go hard on that, it would just be way more.
Why don't you?
I got so much stuff going on with the business, and just kind of, it's a juggling act, dude. Just client work and all of that, and just I got a new offer coming out soon too, so I'm focused on that as well. But in the coming, I think, few months, I'll have a lot more time on my hands as I switch to this new offer, and I'll have more time to go hard on content, which I'm really looking forward to, because that's what gives me a lot of energy, and that's where I like focusing on. That's why I like your setup, man. Like, you create content and you get paid to do that. I love that. Like, that's where I want to get to. So right now I'm in the trap of just doing work for clients, and I'm very grateful for the experience, but I'm ready to like move towards like just creating content, being a teacher.
You know what's interesting is I don't think we've actually seen what getting paid in a thread looks like, right? Like, imagine established brands were like, all right, your thread got 1 million impressions. Okay, let me sponsor the second tweet, and then you could pay me based on the impressions. That's something that is just an idea I just got from doing this right here, but I think that's going to be way more common in the next 3 years, is like a brand sponsoring a thread or a brand sponsoring content that you want to create, because why wouldn't they, right? Like, if some of your threads, millions upon millions of impressions, you're telling me that Harvard wouldn't want to sponsor the tweet that's like, this thread will teach you more than any university? Like, of course Harvard would want that, right? Because that would be a funny integration. But people don't think like that, or we don't think like that, because no threads have been sponsored by actual reputable companies, but it's only a matter of time.
That's actually a very interesting idea. I like that a lot, because you think about newsletter placements or YouTube videos or podcasts. I mean, threads, like, well, hell, why not, right? Like, and the viral potential for a lot of these is just absolutely insane. So yeah, that's a very interesting idea. It's cool. I'm very curious how this ecosystem is going to evolve with Elon taking over and his ideas. I'm very excited to see what happens.
What's your current perspective on Elon taking over Twitter? We're sitting here today at December 8th is when we're recording, and we're going to post this on the following Monday. So I know that it could change in the next 4 days based on how quickly he moves, but what's your current perspective on Elon buying Twitter?
I just look at his past endeavors. So Tesla, he he made electric cars popular. I'm not going to try to say it. He launches rockets into space. He made it reusable rockets. He literally drills holes under cities to make tunnels for cars. What else? He's Neuralink. He's putting brain implants into monkeys and shit, and they're playing Pong. If you don't think this guy can turn Twitter into the biggest social media platform in the world, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, this guy has a track record for getting shit done, and you already look at the changes he made and how fast he makes the implementations. Like, it's absolutely insane. So I honestly think Twitter's going to be, in the next, say, 10 years, will be top 1 or top, I think it'll be top 1 or top 2 social media platforms. YouTube's king right now, obviously. But I know Elon's going to implement a YouTube competitor into his WeChat type Twitter. He's also going to have a Vine TikTok competitor. So you think about all these aspects, and the payments. Like, he has X payments that I don't even know what the hell that is, but it sounds crazy, dude. The cool ass name. So he's going to implement payments. So you have to look at WeChat that he wants to model this off of. It has over 1 billion users or something crazy in China. So I'm very bullish on the trajectory, and I think also the platform he's giving people, like the freedom of speech, I'm a big proponent on. I think it's very important to have that, and if all these other platforms are censoring that, I think it's going to be natural for them to congregate on Twitter. Like, look at Andrew Tate. Like he's got a voice now on Twitter. All of his fans are going to come on Twitter, bring more traffic into it, and like boom. So it's going to be interesting, man. I'm very bullish on Twitter.
It's funny because I've said, you said 10 years it'll be 1 or 2. I think 3 years it'll be number 1. Within 3 years, Twitter will be.
I want to be conservative. Yeah.
Fair enough. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And so how does that impact you and where you spend your time? I know you're creating reels right now. Like, are you on YouTube? I haven't seen you pop up there yet. And are you planning on going on YouTube? Because I know Dan Coe's been crushing it. And I know you just follow what Dan Coe's doing.
Dude, he's paving the way for me. He's been my mentor since day one. It's like, oh, Dan's on Instagram. I would get on Instagram. He's been great. He's been helping me a ton. So I actually had a mastermind call with Dan Go and a few others yesterday about getting on YouTube. So I'm going to be starting that soon. And right now, the way I look at it, I'm just building a catalog of all these ideas and content, like these reels and all that. I'm going to repurpose into shorts on YouTube. The threads I'll repurpose into videos on YouTube because I do think YouTube's the top tier social media or platform, content creating platform. And so I definitely want to hop on there. And I think you connect more with your audience when you have that long form video. So yeah, YouTube, I will definitely be starting real quick.
How do you figure out where to put your time and attention?
That's something I've been struggling with lately because, for context, I mean, there's so much demand for ghostwriting. I get hit with people every day asking and like wanting to give me their money, but it's a short-term distraction. Like what I'm realizing, I need to say no. I need to learn to say no to these short-term opportunities to focus on this longer-term opportunity or this more scalable opportunity, which is this new offer that's coming out. But it's been hard for me. That's something I struggle with.
Can you talk about the new offer that you got coming out?
It's top secret. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to train ghostwriters and show them how to scale their agency to 10 to 50K a month. And then I'm going to pair them with business owners, and I will make it a win-win for everybody. Because the biggest problem right now is there's a bunch of business owners that want to grow their following, but they don't have time, and they don't have access to a competent ghostwriter because, truth be told, 95% of ghostwriters are crap, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to get results. So if I can come in here and give like my plug and play systems, this is how you do all this. This is how you run a sales call. This is how you deliver content to the client. This is how you write. This is how you write content. This is how you grow on social media, because all these ghostwriters, they don't know how to grow their own account. And the biggest thing too, like the ones that do know how to grow, they're just tweeting platitudes or this basic stuff. So if they try to get paired with a business owner that wants this high level content to get leads and all that, they don't know how to do it. So there's a certain way to write to get leads and to get followers or all that stuff. So that's where I'm going to come in. I'm just going to show people how to do this. I'm going to pair them with the business owners and just rip it up that way.
One interesting thing I discovered when doing research for this episode is how you break down your day, or at least you did at one point, into, all right, I'm going to write tweets at this point, but I'm going to just write platitude tweets. Now the next, I'm going to write like authority tweets. And you separated and you granularized the process of writing tweets into this thing where I would never think to do that. What gave you that idea to do that? And how was that something that you do in your business in general now?
Yeah, so I forget where I heard it, but there's the idea of context switching. So when you're doing analytical work, you're in one mode of thinking. And then when you're doing more creative work, you're in another mode of thinking. So if you're switching between those two modes, then you're eating up a little bit of mental energy, because you have to adjust. Okay, I was going from creative thinking, now I'm in analytical. Now I have to adjust all my circuitry or whatever to this mode of thinking. Oh, now I'm going to go back to this mode of thinking, and then you got to readjust, and that eats up mental energy. So my thought process was, okay, when I'm writing tweets, let's just write the platitude stuff, the basic stuff, because I want to be in that flow state, right? And then when I want to write the more authoritative content, let's just do it all at once. And that way I'm in that mode of thinking. So just finding ways like that to conserve mental energy, because I mean, like being a creative person, you need to protect your focus. It's crappy when you're in flow state and you get distracted and stuff like that. So just finding ways to protect that, because that's, at the end of the day, you're coming up with ideas, and if you're getting bogged down by things, then you're just going to screw yourself up.
What other things do you do to put yourself in the most creative state?
One of the biggest things is I use app blockers, because I don't know about you, but I get distracted so easy with social media, especially when it's your job, or you're getting these dopamine hits from like, oh, what's my reel at? What's my tweet at, thread at? And so I use, the best one I found was Cold Turkey app blocker. Shout out to Dickie Bush for introing me to it. And you set scheduled times where it just cuts off any of the sites you don't want to get access to. It's been super helpful for me. I mean, other tips for creativity, reading. I mean, podcasts or consuming content from other people. I mean, one thing that was interesting for me to note was how much Dan Coe just consumes information from different sources, and then what he'll do, he'll like conjugate that into like a spider web of ideas in his head, and he'll come up with original ideas because he's pairing all these things. Like, that guy goes on a walk like every hour or 2 hours, and he'll just like listen to Alan Watts or something, and he'll just always consuming in content. And that's why you see him having these thoughtful original ideas on the timelines, because he's getting from all these different sources and pairing them together. So that's a huge hack for people to come up with ideas.
So what's been the idea or ideas that you yourself are most proud of that you have come up with or that you have lived in your life?
That's a hard one. I'm not sure, man. Like, I think I don't know. I don't know if I have like any crazy, at least in my mind, I don't see myself as having like any revolutionary ideas yet. I think maybe the way I conjugate information, or like the way I've taken certain ideas and incorporated in my own life to build my life. Like, I write tweets for a living. Like, what? Like, I pretend to be people on the internet and I write tweets for a living. That's crazy. But I wouldn't have built that lifestyle if I didn't learn these lessons from different people and different books and stuff like that. So maybe it's not so much the maybe ideas I present on the timeline, but maybe it's the lifestyle I live, and maybe it's like the knowledge I learned from that, and talking about that. I don't know if that's like a woo-woo kind of answer. Yeah, I don't know. I think I can't think of any like revolutionary ideas that I've had for people. But maybe that's just me just being judgmental.
A lot of fiction writers often say that they go crazy because they are playing the characters of so many different people in their head, and that they're talking to all these people, and they're creating these conversations, and then it's difficult for them to exist in the world. Do you ever find that issue when you're ghostwriting? You're like, oh my God, like I'm playing this person, or it's no big deal?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like I can turn it off. I can compartmentalize pretty well, but I mean, I have this one guy in a certain niche, and I just get in a certain mode. Like, I get more in my masculine manosphere kind of mode, and I'm like just writing. I'm like, yeah, like I wish I could say this on my own account and stuff. Like, just kind of go more Andrew Tate like kind of side of things. It's fun. It's cool. No, I can compartmentalize pretty well. It's not like I get bipolar or something on my personal life. But no, it's cool. It's just kind of fun. It's like you're acting, right? Like you're just getting into character a bit. But yeah.
What have been some of the most impactful or wild moments that have like made your jaw drop or made you run around your apartment? Like, how is this happening? This is crazy. I know one instance you brought up was like when Dan Coe gave you $200 for suggesting something in his group. But are there any other moments that stand out as like, wow, like this happened to me? Because I know whenever you gain attention, there's always things that happen to you where like, how is that possible? But is there anything that stands out?
Man, just looking back 2 years ago, like how lost I was with life, and then I just hopped on Twitter, just like, it's like, oh, like, what's this course or whatever? Just the sequence of events that led to like finding Twitter, and then the sequence of events of growing on Twitter, and the people I met and what opportunities I was presented. Like, for example, Dan Coe, like he gave me the $200, and I felt compelled to like repay him because of the reciprocity bias. So I hopped on a call with him about his coaching program. He closed me. I had no intention on like doing a coaching program. I just like felt indebted. I was like, oh yeah, let's do it, whatever. And then that led to us like talking every day, and then that led to him telling me, oh, we're going to this music festival, and that led to me saying, oh, I wish I could go there. And he said, oh, you should come. And I said, okay. I went to that music festival. He invited me to live with him, and that was crazy. That was mind blowing. Like, this guy is like, I was looking up this guy, I still do, like a year ago. Now I'm moving in with him. Like, this is nuts. And then just the opportunities of building a social media profile. Like, I got celebrities, like some celebrities, like not crazy celebrities, but like just hit me up, like just asking questions about something, or they want ghostwriting, or like I'm in contact with 8-figure entrepreneurs. Or like you said earlier, like how people recognize you in Austin. Like I had that happen twice at a coffee shop. It's just like, whoa, that's nuts, man. I was on, dude, so The Future and Chris Do, their channel, man, I looked up to very much so in the beginning. I got a lot of great info from him. I did a podcast with him last month or something. That was just mind blowing. Like,
came
what?
out yesterday. I listened to it last night.
Yeah, dude, that was crazy to me. It's just so cool to me how fast your life can change if you just hone in on something. You just dedicate yourself to it, and you play with integrity. Yeah, just very grateful for the people I've met along the way, and like how impactful they've been on my journey and the opportunities they've given me. It's been like this now. This is crazy. Like just seeing you blow up with your podcast, and then you ask me to come on. It's like, hell yeah, I want to do that, man. That's I feel like a kid in a candy shop, dude. I just feel like very grateful for this opportunity from all these people. It's just still blows my mind that like just like a few years ago, I was just, like did so lost in life, and now I just found my tribe and like got this new trajectory for life. It's really cool. It's cool.
What's the advice to people who are maybe in the position you were in 2 years ago?
Yeah, so try a bunch of different stuff. See what sticks for you. Like you're gonna, like I'm not gonna lie, like, you're not gonna find the perfect thing for you right away. But with each thing you try, you're gonna find things you don't like and things you do like, and then you can narrow the funnel a bit more. And just keep trying things, narrow it a bit more. And then also, I think one of the biggest things is just playing with integrity. Like if you plan on doing Twitter long term, you need to play with integrity, because word gets out fast if you're a bad actor. And I mean, with a close knit community like Twitter, you'll get banished to the shadow realm. I can think of a few people that got ousted. So like, I mean, if you're playing with integrity and you're focused on try new things and like slowly like honing in on what you like, and find things you're interested in, and just playing to your strengths there, I think it's a recipe for success.
Yeah, and that point about playing with integrity and playing long-term games is so important, because I heard about you a year ago, but I didn't invite you on the podcast a year ago, even though I liked your writing, because I was like, a lot of people have got my attention for one moment, and I've just heard about that are talented, but are they still going to be here a year from now? And then I'm sure there are people who are looking at me and be like, oh, that's cool. He's done a podcast for 2 years. Is he going to be there 5 years from now? Right? So it's like the longer you are in a game, the more people are like, all right, I'm not going to be able to ignore this person for that long if they're still playing. And it makes them want to also support you and be on your side, because they know that there's a likelihood you're still going to be here 2 years from now, or 5 or 10. So
yeah, exactly.
Very well said.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. It's you can tell when people have good intentions, or when they're not in it just for themselves. They want to like benefit everyone in the community, and I really vibe with those people. I think it's awesome.
Could we talk about a couple of your tweets?
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
So this is on living abroad. Living out of a backpack for 3 months abroad taught me I don't need items to be happy. Some of my best memories were riding scooters with strangers I met at a hostel, passing waving kids on the side of the road in Vietnam. I hope more people get to experience that freedom. What has living abroad taught you about life?
Yeah, so it helped me detach from a lot of the material items. I mean, when you can only fit all that you need into a backpack, you're forced to like cut the bullshit. Like you realize real quick, oh, I don't need like a handheld video game set, or I don't know, like just random stuff you hoard around you to be happy. I mean, I only had a backpack, and I was just going around, and I realized what really brings me joy in life is experience and experiences with people and just doing new things. And that's something, just material items, sure, they can give you a quick dopamine hit, but I mean, they just don't, there's no comparison to that. And I mean, the personal growth from traveling abroad was unreal. Like, you could read 100 self-help books, but just I would argue like traveling alone or traveling with a friend will benefit you way more, and just like expose you to new cultures and new ideas, new ways of living. It can be uncomfortable when you're going through Vietnam markets and there's just everyone around you just trying to haggle with you and all that stuff. But it's so cool. It's such a cool experience, and it makes you more interesting as a person because you can share those stories with people and talk about that. And you connect with people more too, because I mean, you have different perspectives and you can understand, okay, there's different ways of living, and this person sees something different than me, but we can still communicate and be friends and get along. But yeah, I hope more people, like, I honestly meant it with that tweet, I hope more people get to go out and explore the world a bit, because it's so moving. It's I mean, sure, like, there's a place for like business and making money and grinding, and yeah, early 20s you gotta set yourself up for life, but man, like, just don't lose sight of the goal. Like, what's the point of making money if you don't live life, right?
One thing I really admire about you is your ability to be open and to say to yourself, I understand that there is more out there than what I currently understand. And traveling is the biggest embodiment of that, right? You're saying to yourself, I don't know exactly how other people live. I want to experience that. I want to understand their book. I want to understand their stories. And so it's I really admire that trait about you in particular. And I'm curious, like, at what point in your business journey, like, did you actually go abroad? Like, was it a certain amount of money that you hit? Like, how did you make that decision? Was it just like a feeling like, I got to get out of here, I got to get to a new place? Like, take us through that decision.
Yeah. So I actually, first time I went like abroad on a backpacking trip was when I was an electrician, and I was just burnt out, man. I was working 14, 12-hour days every day. And I need to get the hell out of here. I listened to Jordan Harbinger on his podcast and how he talked about going to Vietnam and stuff. So that inspired my kind of like, okay, man, I'm just going to see, like, screw it, I'm going to go to Asia or whatever. And I booked a trip there, and that was life-changing. And then, yeah, with business, I mean, COVID obviously happened and wasn't doing much traveling. The only real traveling I did was going to the music festival Danco, and then going to Texas, moving in with Danco and Devin. That was a big move for me, because the reason for that was I wanted to surround myself around people that were on the same wavelength and that kind of understood and had that positive energy. So that was what motivated that. And then, I mean, recently I just came back from Dubai. That was the same kind of thing. Like, I had an entrepreneur friend moving his tax residency there. It's like, okay, I'll go with you. Like, he dared me not to. We went out for drinks. He's like, you're a pussy if you don't. I was like, I'll do it. Screw it. And we got a bunch of other friends to come, and it was just really good energy because we're all just building businesses and working on that. So just being around that energy was amazing. And then now going to Colombia with a friend I went to Asia with because we planned this for a while, like pre-COVID, but all that screwed it up. But now going to Colombia this Sunday, and yeah, just gonna go explore the world and rip it up and do all that. So
Yeah, it reminds me of a tweet from my good friend Zach Pograb, which went pretty viral, which is surround yourself with relentless humans, people who plan in decades but live in moments, train like savages but create like artists, obsess in work, relax in life, people who know this is finite and choose to play infinite games. Find people scaling mountains, climb together. I just thought, like, you're living that, and you have been living that by going to Austin, by going to Colombia, by going to Dubai. Like, it's possible to live like that. So
yeah, I think it's so important for people, especially early on in their 20s. I think surrounding yourself with a good nucleus of people. I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, like, this business game, it can be hard sometimes, man. Just, you're gonna go through shit, and you're gonna have self-doubts, or you're gonna struggle, and just having that good group of men or women around you, it makes all the difference.
Well, it's because business as a whole brings up all the things that you might have suppressed, right? It'll bring up your people-pleasing nature. It'll bring up the trauma or the things that have gone wrong in your own life, and it'll force you to reconcile with that, or you won't grow. And it's pretty tremendous, like, from that perspective of having something that forces you to grow as a human being by bringing up the things that have held you back. So,
yeah, dude, it's I think it was Oliver Canton or something. He said, like, teaching or learning business will teach you more than any self-help book, or I don't know, maybe I tweeted it, I don't know, someone tweeted it, and it was like, yes, that's completely right, because like you said, like, a lot of your traits will come out in the business, and if you're a people pleaser, you might screw up, you might just take too much crap, and you're gonna get screwed. That's the name of the game, man. But it's awesome. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love it.
So another one of your tweets, we kind of touched on this idea earlier, but to quote you, 2 years ago, I dropped out of college and quit my job to pursue online business. 0 following, 0 direction in life, 0 idea what I was doing. Today, I get paid to write tweets for a living and travel the world. I'm here to tell you, it's possible.
Yeah. That was just me reflecting on where I was. I think that was like a few weeks ago, just thinking like, oh, I'm in Dubai. Like, this is nuts, man. This is so cool, and it's just so crazy. Like, who would have thought? Like, you tell someone that you write tweets for, like what? Like, tell it to, like, chicks that go on dates with, and they're like, who are you? Are you a drug dealer? Like, it's nuts, man. And just, it's so cool how many different avenues starting a business online can lead to. I mean, look at you. You talk to people you find interesting for a living, and that's so cool. You know, like, it's just nuts. Like, you got a kick-ass job, dude. Like, I could interview like some CEOs and just like kick it up, and like, dude, people, these CEOs are charging thousands of dollars per hour for like consultation. You just get to ask them whatever, and then you get paid to do it. Like, you won the game, man. That's so cool.
It's absolutely correct. Yeah, I feel incredibly blessed, and it feels, a good indicator for whether or not you're on the right path in life is if you're waking up every day and you're like, how is this possible? And so,
yeah,
I mean, I say that to myself every day. It feels like you do as well. So I think that's a beautiful place to come to a close. But before we do, I like to end these conversations with a challenge for people. You listen for an hour and a half, and you then take the information you learn, but you can best do that with some action or some challenge to become the best version of yourself. Anything come to mind for a challenge you can leave people with to be the best version of themselves possible?
Yeah, so I think do something uncomfortable. tomorrow, today, or whatever. And if you can't think of anything, I would suggest give a stranger a compliment. So if you see a barista or a cashier or something, give them a compliment, a genuine compliment, and make their day. And I think that's a solid thing you can do.
I love that. And I also feel most connected to people when I feel most connected to myself when I'm connected to other strangers, because I think it just highlights the fact that we're all one in some respect, and we're all connected in some way. And it's incredible, like what talking to strangers will do and just brighten your own day. So I think it's incredible. It's a beautiful place to come to a close. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will give a compliment to you, Danny. You asked. This has been. I'm not even exaggerating. Sorry about the other podcast, but this has been the best podcast interview. I saw someone, they complimented you on how you explore your curiosities, or that's why you shine through. And it's very obvious on this interview or this podcast. Just man, and the research you do, like that's actually phenomenal. So I commend you on that, and just seeing your whole journey has been absolutely amazing. And I've no doubt in my mind you're gonna hit Joe Rogan levels. I'm stoked I get to be like in the catalog on the way up. So that's awesome. I appreciate you.
Episode 287, Dakota. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Where can we send people to connect with you further?
Yeah, Twitter's my main campground at Wrongs to Right, WRITE. That's where I post most of my shit posts and my thoughts.
Thank you so much for the kind words, for your wisdom, and just for being somebody who is inspiring to me and inspiring to the world. Day by day, you're really doing incredible things, and it's just incredible how you've taken a negative situation that almost brought me to tears and turned it into helping so many people over such a wide breadth of life. So thank you so much, man. You're an inspiration, and I'm super excited to follow along the journey and hopefully do this in person one day.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it.
Everything, all your links below, and until next time, peace.
Hell yeah. Thank you.